Shalom. First, start off like the first and foremost, give our honor, glory, and praise unto our Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakudash. The honors our venerated apostles and elders of Great Millstone taught us the truth and rule well, and are the true leaders of the nation of Israel, which consist of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, as well as you speckled bird, Israelite foreigners scattered abroad. I'm the brother Shamar. With another quick lesson. All right, and this is just to show you that the MOTB, all right, will be mandated soon, okay? And they're taking gradual steps, all right, to introduce the MOTB worldwide, all right? And soon enough, it will be mandate, pursuing Revelation, the 13th chapter and the 16th verse. All right. This is here from BBC News. It says new digital ID will be mandatory to work in the UK. It says Keir Starmer confirms plans for a new digital ID scheme. And one thing that you should know, all right, is that the MOTB is, pretty much the end goal of the elite, all right, to get everybody chipped and to have total control over the masses, in the grand scheme of things, right? The enterprise, the NWO, all right, this new digital system. It's going to be coupled with the use of the RFID microchip, all right? It says digital ID will be mandatory in order to work in the UK as part of plans to tackle illegal immigration. Sir Keir Starmer said that the new digital ID scheme would make it tougher to work in the UK illegally and offer countless benefits to citizens, while his senior minister, Darren Jones, said it could be the bedrock of the modern state. All right, so you see how, again, illegal immigration, all right, is being used as pretty much the precedent to come with this digital ID, and soon enough, what's going to contain the digital ID is going to be the RFID microchip, all right, or NFC microchip, all right, which RFID is radio frequency identification, NFC near field communication, all right, and it's going to be an implantable microchip that will be mandated soon, all right, in order to function within society, in order to buy and sell, as Revelation 13 and 16 suggests, you're going to have that chip implanted in you, all right? Remember, it said in the right hand or in the foreheads. The forehead is also dealing with the brain-computer interfaces, i.e. Neuralink, whatever they decide to push out here, Because even now you have a number of tech startup companies with various BCIs, all right, and they're gonna push that as the norm, putting their technology inside of you, It says, however, opposition parties argue the proposals would not stop people crossing the channel in small boats. It says the Prime Minister set out his plans in a broader speech to a gathering of world leaders, in which he said it would be too easy for people to work illegally in the UK because the center left hand had been squeamish about saying things that were clearly true. And you're going to have a lot of opposition to this as well, because what some people would have considered, taboo, something they're squeamish about. All right. When this thing is mandated, when the chip is pushed, you're not gonna have a lot of people that get down with it. And the elite know that, which is why they're setting up certain scenarios to cause chaos, to let these people, die off. And when there's a shortage of goods out here due to the tariffs, due to the supply chain disruptions, the various food processing facilities just turn up, destroyed, farmlands being destroyed, livestock being slain, and so on. The famine is going to be one part. All right, you're going to have class wars. You're going to have race wars, and all-out chaos because of the conditions that they're setting up. It says, addressing the Global Progressive Action Conference in London, attended by politicians including Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, Sir Keir said it was time to look ourselves in the mirror and recognize where we've allowed our parties to shy away from people's concerns. It is not compassionate left-wing politics to rely on labor that exploits foreign workers and undercuts fair wages, he said. The simple fact is that every nation needs to have control over its borders. We do need to know who is in our country. And that's how they figure they're going to do it, by rolling out the digital ID. All right, which again, they're setting the precedent for the MOTB, for the RFID microchip. All right, because that's going to be the digital wallet, so to speak, the digital ID. All right, that's going to contain people's financial info, identification, all right, as well as, your medical records and so on. So, let's get this. Psalm 10:3. For the wicked boast of his heart's desire. Right? The wicked dealing with Esau, the self-proclaimed white man. Beginning with these top big families of the elite. They're boasting of their heart's desire, which is their New World Order. Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages. All right, this whole digital scheme. All right, technocracy. Total control over the masses, man. All right. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. You see, and yet you have a lot of our people that wholeheartedly trust in this man. They fear this man, they reverence him. All right, and ultimately they're getting ready to be deceived. But I'm gonna read that again. Psalm 10:4. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. All right. In the NLT it reads, the wicked are too proud to seek the Most High. They seem to think that the Most High is dead. And they think that they're gonna be able to do away with the nation of Israel. They conspire against our nation. You know, they have summit meetings with the other nations to plot on our destruction. All right. Which we know that they are going to get busy with a large multitude of our people, the wicked of our people. All right, but the Most High, Yahweh Shem Shai, is with his elect, that small remnant. Right, the 1/3 men, women, and children of the nation of Israel. It says, verse 5, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. But yeah, his ways are always grievous. That's why he's pushing, draconian legislation out there. All right. The scriptures say, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, that right grievousness which they prescribed. It says, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffed at them. Hey, but his judgment is written, and it's going to happen exactly as the Most High said it's going to happen. All right, he's literally going to rain on his parade, and he's only going to get so far with his agendas, man. All right, but his end is going to be the destruction of his kingdom. All right, and for his ass to go into slavery, hardcore slavery. And after a long 1,000 years of serving us in our kingdom, he's going to be done away with. But they see that they're pretty much at their wits' end, which is why Revelation 12:12, devil shall come down having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. They see it, right? They see the so-called UFOs, right? The chairs, the angels. They see the men of the Lord waking up out there on the highways and hedges, prophesying against them, prophesying against their power structure, all right, their kingdom. So they understand that at the end, and they got to move on us, But it's all good. The Lord is, again, with his people. He's with his elect. They're not going to be able to do away with the nation of Israel. He has said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. This is what they really think. That they can continue to perpetuate their wickedness in the earth. He has said in his heart, which is the mind, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Which, on the contrary, he is going to be moved out of the position of power. And he is going to face adversity. He's going to face hardcore bondage. All right, underneath the nation of Israel. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue, mischief and vanity. That's what he's all about. Elsewhere in the scriptures, it talks about how the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in their hearts. By speaking peaceable and smooth things to people, they're able to deceive them. They won't pretty much set the chip as the norm underneath the guise of convenience, as far as its usage in your everyday life. Because not only is it able to contain your financial info, your digital ID, so to speak, your your health records. It can be used as a key fob and a key card as well. So this is Revelation 13:16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads. He is dealing with Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, beginning with the top banking families of the elite. All right, and this is their end goal, getting everybody chipped. All right, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. That's every status within society, to receive a mark in the right hand or in the foreheads. Let's break down the mark in the Greek. The charagma, right? This is a stamp, an imprint, and mark. This is the mark branded upon horses, thing carved, sculpture, graven work. Which the chip, that's basically a brand. All right. And as I'm gonna get into, when you exhaust it further, you have the root word charax, which is a pale, stake, palisade, which is dealing with the device used to administer the chip. It's like a syringe. So the latter root word in the Greek is grapho. It's just to write with reference to the form of letters, and that deals with all the records that are contained in the device itself. Again, this is going to be a digital wallet. This is also going to be a digital ID. All right, as well as have all your medical records as well. All right, it's also going to serve as a key fob, access card. It's how people are going to make contactless payments and so on. So again, it says, and he causeth, the word for causeth, boeo in the Greek, right? To be authors of the cause, to make ready, to prepare, to acquire, prove a thing. It's like to acquire, to provide a thing for oneself. But yeah, it says to be the authors of a thing, to cause, bring about, and they're setting up, the precedent. They're changing the infrastructure. They're setting up society to, mandate the RFID microchip. Everything is going digital. Everything is going to be, digitized, if you will. Digital currencies, digital ID. They're doing away with cash. Eventually, this is what's going to be pushed as the norm. All right. Verse 17, Revelation 13:17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. It is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, And his number is 600, 6. 666. All right, in the Greek, you have the letters chi, psi, stigma. Now we always go into the word stigma itself. And it says, mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked, right, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to. So the chip is basically a brand, which shows your subservitude to Esau, right, the wicked, and his system. Matter of fact, you hear bros, they'll make reference to this as the digital all, because we can go back into the law of having Hebrew servants. I'll just read it real quick. This is Exodus 21:1. It says, now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master have given him a wife, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be a master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and you shall serve him forever. So that was basically a brand, you know, to show that this servant, all right, would serve his master continually. Right, as it says, and he shall serve him forever. They would bring his ear to the doorpost and bore it through with an awl, just like a hole punch, if you will. And this is where you have that custom of the earring, you know. So going back, Revelation 13:16, 666, chi, psi, stigma. The last letter, stigma, right? A mark pricked in or branded upon the body. It says slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. Now I believe one of the Ptolemies, when you go into the history of the Greeks, all right, he actually set up a registration system in which he had certain people, individuals in his jurisdiction be branded with the ivy leaf symbol of Dionysus or Bacchus. All right. Let me look this up real quick.
Depende de cómo te portas, mío. La cosa es que hay que trabajar duro.
So I looked this up with ChatGPT. Now this is one of the Ptolemies. It was Ptolemy the Fourth, Philip Beta. Right, it says, according to Jewish sources, especially Third Maccabees, a text included in the Septuagint but not in the Hebrew Bible, he attempted to force Egyptian Jews to participate in Dionysian rites, which were ritualistic rites. You had reveling, you had orgies and things of that nature, and, all the ways of Esau, right, the so-called white man, But you had Jews in Egypt because Ptolemy, he brought us into Alexandria, Egypt. After Alexander died, and his empire was split between his 4 generals, Ptolemaeus, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander. All right, they're the 2 that dealt heavily with our people and heavily oppressed us. All right, were Seleucus, Ptolemy, and their descendants. It says part of this persecution involved compelling Jews to be branded with the ivy leaf symbol of Dionysus Bacchus, the sacred emblem of the god. It says the act had both a religious and political meaning. Religiously, it attempted to mark Jews as belonging to Dionysus' cult, violating their monotheistic identity. Politically, it was a way for Ptolemy IV to assert control and test their loyalty to his rule. And that's the same thing he's trying to do with the chip, right, in the system that he's rearing up. So it's pretty much the same playbook, but here in this modern age, he has his technology at his expense. All right. I'm gonna read that last part again. There were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of the gods. All right, and once you take that chip, you're showing your subservitude to Satan. I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise once again to our Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakudash. Double honor to our apostles and elders, great millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. To the next, I say Shalom.